Hey, what's up guys? Ophelia coming at you with another awesome Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime card analysis. And today's video is going to take a look at the new cards used by Aoi Zaisen, who now goes under the name Blue Girl, in episode 56 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains. If you guys haven't already watched episode 56 and you want these cards to remain a mystery for you guys, I am letting you know that this is a spoiler alert for this video, as she does utilize a really cool technique in this video we have not seen in TRICKSTARs before. As on top of that, if you haven't already checked out the anime card analysis for Season 1, or my most recent TRICKSTAR deck profile, I'll put a link to it at the end of this video. And also guys, if you like my video, please remember to like and subscribe, hit the bell so you're updated whenever I release new content. And without any further ado guys, let's get into the video. The first monster that Aoi plays in this duel that is completely new is a monster known as TRICKSTAR Birdhelm. Birdhelm is a level 5 light fairy with 0 attack and 1800 defense, and she has 2 effects. Her first effect is when she's normal summoned, you get to burn your opponent for 200 points of damage and draw 1 card. And then you cannot conduct your battle phase the turn you use this effect. You can target 1 TRICKSTAR monster you control, equip her from your hand to the target, and your opponent cannot target a monster equipped with Birdhelm with card effects. Also, each time you special summon a TRICKSTAR monster or monsters, immediately inflict 200 points of damage to your opponent. Now, the first effect, being able to normal summon her to draw a card, is pretty average considering you do have to tribute, so you basically minus 1 card in hand, 1 card on field just to draw 1 card. So, and you get a 0 attack point monster, so what's the point in that? Obviously, you're going to use her for her second effect to equip and give some much needed protection from targeting, which is really nice. And being able to burn your opponent every time you summon a TRICKSTAR monster is really cool as well, especially if you combo her effects off with the Link monster we're going to take a look at in this video. Now, I do think if she came to the TCG OCG, they wouldn't have to nerf anything with her effects. I don't think people would actually play her too much in terms of the more competitive OTK builds, which probably aren't becoming as common now, because Reincarnation obviously is at 1 in OCG, and given the announced reprint, I do feel like Reincarnation will get hit to 1 here as well. On that as well, it's interesting to note that not a single copy of Reincarnation was seen in this duel, so either Aoi's only playing it at 1 copy to match the Japanese ban list, or she's just didn't draw into it. But we have to wait and see. The new Link monster she plays in this duel is a monster known as TRICKSTAR Diva Redis. Diva Redis is a Link to TRICKSTAR with 1800 attack, and of course she's a light fairy, and she points bottom left and bottom middle. If she is special summoned, you get to burn your opponent for 200 points of damage, and then each time your opponent normal or special summons a monster or monsters, they immediately lose 200 life points. So that's pretty good. She has a pretty decent burn effect, and her Link markers are pretty good for a Link too. Very similar to Madonna in the sense that they are to Holy Angel in the sense that they both point down, and that's pretty cool. Unfortunately, her stats for a Link 2 are pretty average. And whilst it's not said in the anime, we can assume it's 2 TRICKSTAR monsters to link into her. So she's a decent choice to play as a first Link monster if you don't want to play Holy Angel as your first Link monster. Being only 1800, it's pretty easy for your opponent to run over, especially like, okay, they'll give up 600 life points to make a monster with 2k attack or something, or they'll just normal summon a 2k beta and ram into your monster. Thankfully, Caravan is a thing and we can bump her up to 3600. So I feel like if Diva Darius was actually ever going to come to the TCG OCG, they wouldn't have to hit her too much, because she doesn't have too much protection. But protecting her with your Birdhelm is actually a decent strategy, because you can burn when you summon, you burn when they summon, and obviously gives you some protection from opponents' card effects. Next up, guys, is where we get to the spoiler alert territory. We have the new fusion monster that Aoi uses called TRICKSTAR Band Sweet Guitar. First off, given her naming convention, which is very different from the other TRICKSTAR monsters, it's safe to assume that they are going to be releasing other monsters that are part of this band. TRICKSTAR Band Sweet Guitar is a level 7 light fairy fusion monster with 2200 attack and 1200 defense. So her attack stat is very similar to that of most Link 2 TRICKSTAR monsters. The issue is, for a level 7, her attack and defense are pretty pathetic. We assume it's going to be a fusion between any 2 TRICKSTAR monsters, which probably might make sense why she's a little weaker. If she was any 2 specific TRICKSTAR monsters, maybe she'd have a little bit more attack. Any effect damage that a TRICKSTAR monster linked to her inflicts to your opponent is doubled. So she kind of makes up for her low attack stats by doubling the damage dealt by other TRICKSTAR's effects. Still is a little iffy. I mean, you're going to be dealing 400. I mean, it can be pretty devastating if you have, if you've got, you know, Diva Darius pointing to her, so every time that they normal or special summon, they're losing 400. But given that it has to be a link monster that points to her, obviously you can't chain this off effects like Lycoris and Lycoris, Candina, and Narcissus. But thankfully that is a good thing, because I think this would be too abusable otherwise. Her next effect, of course, is she gains attack equal to the damage. If your opponent takes damage by a Trickstar monster's effect, she gains attack equal to the damage they took until the end of the turn. So very similar to Holy Angel in that way. And then once per turn during the end phase, if she attacked, you can add a Trickstar monster from your graveyard to your hand. So she has some nice recovery as well. But I do think her attack stat and defense stat is pretty bad for a level 7, considering she does have to be fusion summoned, so she's a little quite difficult to get out already. But given those limitations she has, I do think that she would be safe coming to the TCG OCG the way she is. And I'd love to see more Trickstar band members added in the future. And I want to talk also about fusion summoning for Trickstars. I think is the perfect choice. It'd be too hard to work in Trickstar tuners, because there's too many different levels of Trickstar monsters already. And I do think that XYZs would be a bit difficult as well, because XYZs normally have activated effects when they detach, where the Trickstar monsters mostly focus around continuous effects as their main gimmick. And obviously, I don't want to see pendulums, because I never want to go back to pendulum format. Next up, guys, is their first field spell, their first spell card, which is Trickstar Fusion. Trickstar Fusion allows us to fusion summon a Trickstar Fusion monster from our extra deck, using monsters from our hand or field as fusion materials. Pretty straightforward. It's just poly for Trickstars. We can then banish it from our graveyard and target a Trickstar monster in our graveyard and add it to our hand. However, we cannot normal summon, set, or special summon the monster added to our hand by this effect this turn. So this downside of the secondary effect is pretty bad. The only monsters I could think of bringing back would be probably Caravan. I mean, you could fuse Caravan and another Trickstar, make Sweet Guitar. Then you could banish this to add Caravan back to your hand, I guess, to threaten a double attack. But, like, I would love to be able to bring Candina back to our hand and then normal Candina in search. But unfortunately we can't do that. Potentially it may become too loopable with what they have planned in the future. But given the limitations on Trickstar Fusion, I think it's perfectly fine to come to the TCG the way it is. And same with the OCG, so I definitely would love to see more Trickstar monsters in the future. Now, it's a little hard to work out, given the blurry artwork, which Trickstar monsters are actually in the artwork. But hopefully, once we get a much more clearer view of the card, potentially in a future duel, we may be able to get a better view of what monsters are actually in the fusion. So, the artwork is still really, really nice. Next up, guys, we have, guess right, guys, they got a new field spell. It's called Trickstar Live Stage. Artwork-wise, this card is really nice. It suggests a band set up at like a rock concert, or more of like a cutesy little poppy rock concert, or an idol rock band concert, which is very different to, from the other field spells we've seen, which is more focused around just normal idol groups. It suggests, of course, that there will be more band members added to the archetype in the future, and which will probably are in this card as well. And the way the artwork is suggested and the way it's drawn, this is we are in our audience, or we are in the mosh pit of this band, which is a really cool piece of artwork that I love. I do think that Trickstars still do have some really cool artwork on their spells and traps, and I'm still waiting for Trickstar Treat to get printed, guys, and with Trickstar Maribold. I love those cards too much. And when I play my Trickstar deck, I keep wanting to actually be able to activate Maribold, because it's such a good card. But I talk more about Maribold in my other video, which is my Season 1 Trickstar card analysis, which again, you can check at the end of the video. So let's talk about Live Stage. Live Stage, when activated, allows us to add a Trickstar monster from our graveyard to our hand, which is pretty good. Makes it better than Light Arena, because it immediately replaces itself in hand. As well as that, we can target a Trickstar Link monster we control and give ourselves a special summon of a Trickstar token, which is a level 1 Light Fairy with 0 attack and 0 defense to a zone it points to in defense position. And then if our opponent controls a set card in their spell and trap zone, we get to special summon a Trickstar token in defense position, but each effect is a hard once per turn. Now, it's really nice that we finally get ourselves Trickstar tokens. So the way I could think of the Trickstar tokens being utilized, potentially maybe be like fans in the audience of the band or the idols, which is a really cool way to think about it. The way they're depicted in the anime is they're basically like little love hearts with wings, and they're pretty adorable. It's really cool that Trickstars get tokens, because it's another nice way to spam the field and for them to kind of mirror the whole scapegoat strategy that a lot of people use for other Link monsters, considering that, of course, we know the Trickstar Link monsters are very limited to only being able to use Trickstar monsters. I do think Live Stage could come to the TCG OCG perfectly fine the way it is. I would have thought Light Arena could have come the way it is, but they obviously had to change it. So I don't know what they would change on this. This card is perfectly fine. The limitations of the hard ones per turn for all 3 effects are perfectly okay. And I'd love to see this in the future. The one thing the Trickstar deck still seems to be missing is another consistent way to search their spells and traps. We see that there are a lot of really gimmicky spells and traps that are utilized in the anime, and unfortunately the only way to search these cards is with Candina. Now, of course, if you add a spell trap searcher, you run into territory with cards like Spellbook of Secrets, Sky Striker Engage, and Tomb Table of Contents. So and all of those cards are hard, with the exception of Tomb Table, are all hard once per turns. So you have to be careful how you would word this card. So I feel like you could have a Trickstar monster in your hands, like you could discard it from your hand to add a Trickstar spell and trap from your deck to your hand as a once per turn. I mean, that's fine. That would be okay, I think. But I do think the Trickstars do need better ways to search their spells and traps, especially because Reincarnation is get hit to 1 in OCG, and I do believe now that we have the reprint, it will definitely get hit here in the TCG as well. But anyway, guys, that's it for the 5 cards she played in this duel. I was very excited to see Aoi duel again. Hopefully she does duel in the future. I was even more excited to learn that she was still playing her beloved Trickstar deck. As we know, the Goki player did discard his Gokis coming into the 2nd season, and I'm really excited for the future of Trickstars. But I'm curious also, what do you guys think? Do you think these cards would be too broken in the current format, the way they are? Would you like to see them get extra effects? What would you like to see Trickstars get as well? Please feel free to let me know in the comments below. Feel free to check out some of my other videos on the channel. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you for my next video.